Zero trust security model is really built on the principle of never trust, always verify, and it really stems from the fact that if we go back in time, security policies were written on the basis of devices. So if you had a device, devices were considered to be trusted, networks were considered to be trusted, right? So the fundamental concept is around that: do not trust the device, right? So there's a user behind the device, you've got to verify the user. Do not trust the device even on a trusted network, right? So even if a trusted device is on a trusted network, like your enterprise local area network, or an enterprise VPN connection, somebody coming in remotely, still verify the device, verify the user, right? So that's kind of the underpinning aspect from the never trust, always verify fundamental that the zero trust model started out in. So what it really means is that the identities of the users are always verified, and they're verified at every layer as the user accesses various different resources in the enterprise. So whether they're different applications, whether they're different data sets, you verify the user for who the user is. Make sure that there's authentication that's happening at every layer, and also verify the user entitlement. So is that user really authorized to access that given resource? Does he have access to a particular data set? Can he go pull some financial data out of a financial system? Does the user have access? Should the user have access to HR information, right? Stuff like that. So you really verify at every stage of access for the various different enterprise resources that a user is trying to get to, right? So do not go with the implicit trust model that a user is trusted, a device is trusted, or a network is trusted, right? That's kind of where this all started off from, right? So always verify, and then obviously monitor this on an ongoing basis, right? So monitor the integrity of the transaction, monitor the integrity of the user and the type of access, right? Because in the modern world, the user might still authenticate, but he might be authenticating from a different type of a device. He might be authenticating from where he normally does not access from. Or you could have anomalous behavior where a user logged in 9 in the morning from New York, and then at 5 in the evening he is logging in from the other side of the world, from China. I mean, today I think it's physically impossible to go from New York to China in a span of 6 hours. Star Trek is not that much of a reality as yet. Forrester started this, I think they coined the term back in 2010, really focused on network access, but then different folks have actually picked it up over time. Gartner came out with their model of what they called Carta. I think it was like 2018, 2019. The Cloud Security Alliance came out with what they call the software-defined perimeter. Google did their Beyond COP architecture, right? But all of them were really focused on the same principles and really controlling network access. That's kind of where it started. But I think if I look at it today, from an evolution standpoint, it's really gone to that point of controlling application access, right? To what I was saying earlier, it's at the end of the day, it's all about controlling application access, controlling data access. Those are your critical enterprise resources, and that's what you really want to be controlling access to. So the same principles have now been taken beyond network access, and they are now applied to application access, data access, and from an evolution standpoint going forward, it's really about taking that granular access permissions and applying it across networks, applying it across applications, and really taking out the implicit trust that existed in a lot of policies, security policies that were written at various different layers, right? And the end objective of that is really to then help build better security posture maturity, with really the ultimate goal of ensuring that you have resiliency in the enterprise, because all security work that we do is really to ensure that the enterprise is resilient, enterprise is able to conduct business without any sort of an outage or without any sort of an incident. Zero Trust architecture, as I said, has evolved from being a network access architecture to really being a holistic architecture, looking at application access control, looking at data access control. And those two elements, if you start looking at it, and start slicing it down, the elements to it is really a strong identity access management architecture, which moves from doing the traditional role-based access models to doing an attribute-based access models. Okay, and then at the network layer, moving from the traditional network access control or any sort of remote access policy-based remote access that was on enterprise networks towards going to real-time risk-based and device context-based policies, which can be applied on the network in real time, right? So you're really putting the two pieces together. You're taking user identity and you're taking device context, taking access policies, putting them together along with policies on application access, or really entitlement policies on application access, data access, right? Fusing all of that together to kind of create, think of it like a multi-dimensional cube. It's really like putting Lego blocks together to create a multi-dimensional cube, which for a given application access kind of makes sense. I think everything that we do in the cyber world is all about protecting data. I mean, the data is really the crown jewels for an enterprise, right? Applications and data are the crown jewels, and applications ultimately serve data out, right? So data first as an approach, in my mind, really truly makes sense, right? That's the right way to kind of think of it. Data access governance today is increasingly becoming important. That's a big topic of conversation across most discussions that we will have, with respect to security policies or security architectures. Also, data security, I think, has evolved as a field by itself, right? So there is a lot more integration that's coming in, not just protecting data from the traditional approaches of doing encryption or doing tokenization of data, but really looking at data access. How do you ensure that there is least privilege being applied when data is being accessed or when data is being served out, right? So whether it's an individual user accessing data or it's an application accessing data from a different data store, right? There's a lot of app-to-app communication that happens, and ensuring that there's least privilege on that access. The other aspect is really, besides the least privilege, is also then looking at the attributes involved, and I spoke about attribute-based access earlier, right? So really looking at the various attributes being computed of devices, of the user context in real time, and applying that to the security policy, so that you're actually taking contextually relevant decisions point in time. You're not looking at static policies. Static policies can be broken, but dynamic policies, which are computed using attributes coming out of telemetry data from the environment, from the network, from the applications, really help drive that higher level of security, and to the end aim of really protecting data, right? So that's where I think the data first approach absolutely makes sense. I think zero trust is obviously zero trust is widely spoken about. Everybody's got their take on zero trust, if you will. One of the newer concepts that's kind of coming in, Gartner's kind of propagated it, is really talking about cybersecurity mesh. It's about getting all of these individual security technologies to integrate together to have a unified policy across the entire landscape. And that goes back to what I was talking about just a bit earlier, right? It's really about then looking at application access and governing the application access data access and governing the data access, right? It's evolving beyond network access control, beyond the zero trust network access that we started off with, and really going down to deploying those policies across devices, across applications, across users, across networks, right? So all of the various different elements, so that you have uniform policy application across everything in your landscape. HCL Tech today is really well poised to support our enterprise customers in deploying zero trust solutions, right? We have built mature practices across the various different elements that need to be controlled from a zero trust standpoint. So we've got a very large infrastructure and cloud security practice, an application security practice, the data security practice. We've invested in recent times on taking all of that knowledge and applying it to OT environments outside of just the IT environment, right? Looking at governance, risk, and compliance, both from an internal compliance standpoint on security policies that you would have, plus looking at regulatory compliances that enterprises need to meet. And then finally, identity access management, which really underpins everything that we talk about from a zero trust standpoint, right? So all of these are individual mature practices by themselves. We've got center of excellences which look at the technology domain, look at the products that are existing out there. Our center of excellence actually is built replicable frameworks which we use as accelerators, so that customers can actually get better time to value, faster time to value, both on deploying technology solutions as well as operating these in a very cohesive manner. And if I put all of that together, right, the objective is, as I said earlier, to really drive a resilient enterprise. And the resilient enterprise, it's important for the enterprise to be resilient, because that's what will give an enterprise really the confidence to grow from a business standpoint, right? So all business growth comes with inherent risk, and one of that inherent risk is cyber risk, right? So having a strong security posture, having posture maturity, and having the resiliency built by design helps a business grow at the same time. And I think HCL Tech today has made investments, and we continue to make investments to work very closely with our customers to kind of partner with them through their journey.